The most controversial moments of financial icons are rarely accidents or isolated missteps. They are pressure points, moments when belief, ego, timing, and public expectation collide. These controversies endure not because the figures involved lacked intelligence, but because extreme success places individuals in environments where every decision is amplified, interpreted, and judged through layers of narrative. Studying these moments is valuable not for gossip, but because they reveal how power, money, and human psychology interact when conditions are no longer forgiving. One of the most discussed controversies in modern finance surrounds George Soros and the British pound in 1992. While Soros is celebrated by some as a master of macro investing, he is criticized by others as a destabilizer who profited from national weakness. Breaking the Bank of England cemented his legend, but also his notoriety. The controversy here is not whether the trade was legal or brilliant, but whether markets should allow individuals to exert such influence. Soros himself argued that markets expose weaknesses rather than create them. The deeper lesson is that when financial insight intersects with political systems, controversy becomes inevitable, regardless of intent. Warren Buffett's controversies are quieter, but equally instructive. One recurring criticism is his long resistance to technology investments, particularly during the rise of Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. For years, this restraint was seen as wisdom. Later, it was framed as stubbornness. Buffett openly admitted this as a mistake, which itself became controversial in a culture that equates confidence with infallibility. The lesson here is subtle. Controversy does not always arise from action. Sometimes it arises from inaction, especially when public opinion shifts faster than long-term strategy. Another major controversy unfolded around Ray Dalio and Bridgewater's radical transparency culture. While praised by some as revolutionary, others described it as emotionally harsh and psychologically exhausting. Former employees criticized the constant feedback and public scoring of performance. Dalio defended the system as necessary for truth-seeking and error reduction. The controversy highlights a recurring tension in finance systems that optimize outcomes may conflict with individual comfort. The lesson is that methods designed for resilience often look cruel from the outside, even when they are effective internally. Mark Cuban's controversies often stem from his outspokenness. Whether criticizing the SEC, questioning market fairness, or challenging billionaire peers, Cuban regularly places himself at the center of debate. His comments on short-selling crypto and corporate governance have drawn backlash from regulators and investors alike. Yet Cuban's willingness to speak publicly reflects a belief that silence can be more damaging than criticism. The controversy here is not correctness, but posture. Cuban accepts reputational risk as the cost of intellectual independence. Cathie Wood's rise and drawdown at ARK Invest created one of the most visible modern controversies. During ARK's peak, Wood was praised as a visionary who understood innovation better than Wall Street. During the downturn, critics accused her of narrative-driven investing, poor risk management, and excessive conviction. Supporters argued that her time horizon had not yet played out. The controversy reveals how quickly financial celebrity can reverse when performance changes, and how conviction becomes indistinguishable from rigidity in hostile environments. Even personal finance figures are not immune. Suze Orman faced criticism for changing advice over time, particularly around retirement strategies and government policy. Some accused her of inconsistency. Orman defended adaptation as responsibility, not weakness. This controversy exposes a deeper problem in financial culture. People want certainty from experts in a system defined by change. The lesson is that updating advice is often punished socially, even when it is intellectually honest. Across these examples, a pattern emerges. Controversy arises when financial icons collide with three forces simultaneously: power, visibility, and uncertainty. The larger the audience, the higher the stakes, and the more ambiguous the environment, the more likely controversy becomes. These moments are not proof of failure. They are proof of exposure, because controversy is not truly revealing until we examine what happens after the spotlight turns harsh and public confidence begins to fracture. The second half of these stories is not about the moment of criticism itself, but about response. In finance, response to controversy often matters more than the original decision because it determines whether trust, discipline, and relevance survive long enough to recover. George Soros's response to controversy has always been radical openness about fallibility. Rather than defending perfection, he emphasized reflexivity and the inevitability of being wrong. He reduced risk quickly when doubt appeared and was willing to reverse positions publicly. This posture angered critics who wanted moral clarity, but it protected his capital and credibility. Soros teaches a difficult lesson in complex systems. Defending your identity is far more dangerous than admitting uncertainty. His resilience came not from moral approval, but from adaptability. Warren Buffett's approach to controversy is almost the opposite in style, yet similar in substance. He responds slowly, calmly, and often years later. When criticized for missing technology, he did not rationalize or attack detractors. He acknowledged the mistake plainly and adjusted quietly by investing heavily in Apple once understanding improved. Buffett's lesson is that patience and humility can neutralize controversy over time. He does not fight narratives. He outlasts them. Markets eventually reward consistency more than argument. Ray Dalio's response to criticism of Bridgewater's culture was to refine, not retreat. He acknowledged that radical transparency was not for everyone and clarified that his system was designed for those who chose it knowingly. Rather than diluting the philosophy to appease public opinion, he tightened its articulation. This response reveals an important principle. Not all controversy should be resolved by compromise. Some systems work precisely because they are demanding. Dalio's resilience came from alignment between belief and structure, not from universal approval. Mark Cuban responds to controversy through engagement rather than silence. He debates, publicly challenges regulators, and accepts backlash as the cost of independence. This approach keeps him controversial, but relevant. Cuban's lesson is that clarity sometimes requires confrontation. However, he also shows the importance of separating opinion from capital. While outspoken publicly, he manages his personal wealth conservatively. The controversy is expressive. The money is protected. This separation allows him to speak freely without endangering survival. Cathie Wood's response to ARK's drawdowns was perhaps the most polarizing. She doubled down on long-term conviction and continued communicating openly. To supporters, this signaled strength. To critics, rigidity. The deeper lesson here is about alignment. Conviction strategies demand investors who truly share the time horizon and risk tolerance. Wood's controversy reveals less about correctness and more about structural mismatch between strategy and audience. The response exposed how modern financial celebrity amplifies both belief and backlash simultaneously. Suze Orman's response to criticism over changing advice highlights another form of resilience, prioritizing responsibility over popularity. She chose to update guidance as laws, and conditions changed even when it angered followers who wanted consistency over accuracy. Her response teaches that credibility is not preserved by repetition, but by relevance. In personal finance, especially adapting advice is not weakness, it is ethical obligation. Orman accepted short-term backlash to preserve long-term trust. Across all these responses, a powerful pattern emerges. Financial icons who endure do not react defensively to controversy. They respond structurally. They adjust systems, clarify principles, reduce risk, or narrow focus. They do not seek universal approval because they understand that approval is volatile. Instead, they protect what matters: capital clarity and coherence between belief and behavior. Another key insight is that controversy often accelerates learning. Public criticism forces introspection that private success rarely does. Those who survive use controversy as data. Those who fail treat it as injustice. This difference explains why some careers deepen after backlash, while others collapse under it. Resilience is not about avoiding controversy. It is about metabolizing it without self-destruction. In the end, the most controversial moments of financial icons reveal something more valuable than judgment. They reveal character under pressure. They show how individuals behave when authority is questioned, when narratives turn hostile, and when ego is tempted to defend rather than adapt. The icons who last are not those who were never wrong, but those who responded to being questioned with humility, patience, and structural change rather than denial. And this is where the story ultimately settles. Controversy is not a detour from financial history. It is one of its primary teachers. It strips away mythology and forces behavior into the open. By studying not just the decisions, but the responses of financial icons in their most criticized moments, we gain a clearer understanding of what truly sustains success over decades. Not brilliance without flaw, but discipline, with recovery, integrity, with flexibility, and the quiet strength to remain aligned with reality when applause disappears.